one thing I just want to touch on with millennials and just people in general, I think there has to be more education so that they'll be more willing to go into a long-term commitment like this. And the education that we have now on a national level is home buyer education, but it doesn't have a wealth building component. So what I'm building within Urban Leisure and Pairgap is really teaching people how to treat home ownership as an asset. The traditional way, is not considered an investment, but that's why we have to kind of rethink how we look at home ownership, and really get the education you need to see how you can utilize it to build wealth.
Christine here with another fun, exciting episode of the Co-Living Code Show on YouTube, on Spotify, SoundCloud, and iTunes. And if you guys can write us a super quick review, we'd really appreciate it. And I want to give ISL Furnishings a quick shout out. They are a brand created through Inner Space Living, and they are all about creating exciting spaces where design meets function. Interspace parlayed its success in commercial grade unit furniture and conceived an elevated offering. And they believe strongly in the co-living industry, which is really cool. And they already work with some of the larger companies like Star City. ISL Furnishings was founded with the mission to bring your brand to life. Their goal is to revolutionize the unit furniture experience, and they are driven by creativity. They believe that interiors should inspire brilliance. Every venue has its own voice. They exist to clarify that voice, interpret your brand vision, and deliver superior quality on time, every time, even during COVID. We actually interviewed the guys a while back, so you definitely want to check out that interview. And today on the show, we are bringing on Nikki, who is a community development and housing specialist. She's a real estate investor and founder of Urban Leisure, which is a co-living space based out of Brooklyn, New York, which is designed for creators and innovators to connect with like-minded individuals. And Urban Leisure brings a unique perspective on the impact of community building and co-living, providing opportunities for people to transform their lives through financial education, giving them support and the tools necessary for their success. She's also the founder of Pairgap, which is an innovative web platform that matches ideal partners to one another with the intent of buying property together. The platform makes home ownership both accessible and affordable. Prior to pursuing her entrepreneurship ventures full-time, Nikki spent 23 years in the financial services industry. She most recently held the role of Community Reinvestment Officer at JP Morgan Chase, and she was born and raised in Queens, New York. She is the proud mother of two, and we even talk a little bit about it. She's now grooming her son Keith to become CEO of Urban Leisure. So great conversation, really cool how she's educating people on how they can actually purchase real estate as an investment and also co-live together. So let's launch right into it. Okay, everybody. So this time we are bringing on Nikki. She is with Pairgap, as you see in the background, which we're definitely going to talk about that. And then also with Urban Leisure. So we're going to talk about both of her companies. She's a busy, busy girl. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Christine. I'm so honored to be here and to be speaking with you.
I know it'd been a long time since we last talked, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Well, 2020 was a wash, so It was probably 3 years ago now.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I think it was 2018.
Okay, I think you're right. Wow. And I know you've accomplished so much since we last had talked. So we'll dive into all that. Definitely want to start with Urban Leisure. Why did you start? When did you start? So we'll go there.
Yeah, absolutely. So Urban Leisure, was really started when I realized that property rentals, or my property rentals, was actually a business. I think initially when I purchased these properties when I was 29 years old, it was really just to kind of be able to have these homes to leave for my children. But then, I've always looked at being a landlord as just collecting rent to pay my mortgage so I can hold on to the asset. But it came, once the market crashed, it became more difficult to hold on to the asset. So I needed to be able to create more cash flow for my properties so that, because my expenses were increasing so much because the neighborhood that I owned was gentrifying. So I was kind of like drowning, trying to keep my head above water and thinking of ways that I can create more cash flow. So I started with student housing. So instead of renting entire apartments, I would just rent to students. And I connected with a real estate company that housed foreign students. So I did that for quite a bit and learned some lessons through that. One of them was the dynamics between the landlord-tenant relationship. um, I needed to change how I viewed my tenants. And the only way to do that is to think of it as a business and to be able to provide an experience for people to come in my home and give them the best experience so they can come back and tell their friends. So I kind of stumbled upon it at the desperation.
Nothing wrong with that.
And,
Innovation.
and
I like to call it innovation.
innovation, I like that better. And it kind of took a life of its own, and I got really involved in it, and that's how I started.
I love that. And then you're in Brooklyn now. Are all your properties also in Brooklyn?
So I have two in Brooklyn, and we have one in Philly that we're about to open.
Nice.
So for now, and what I'm doing is really just creating like a prototype, because the goal is really to utilize this programming that I'm incorporating and create some type of affordable housing. So right now, a lot of people aren't familiar with the industry, so I kind of have to, teach them. So I'd rather show them, and say, hey, this is what I've been able to do, and we can do this on a bigger scale.
I love that. And I know we read it in your bio, but you have 23 years in financial services background, Community Investment Officer, JP Morgan Bank. So I would love for you to talk to how that kind of definitely helped parlay into this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Getting a job at the bank, I was 20 years old, had just had my first child. I was a single mom. And that was like, it changed my life because it really taught me about financial education. So I entered the mortgage industry at 23, and I started feeling like a hypocrite because people were buying and I was helping them, but I didn't own myself. So I decided to purchase. And then I purchased two properties at the same time in Brooklyn. And it was at a time where the neighborhood wasn't the most attractive neighborhood. But I learned all about financial education, being in banking. And when the market crashed and I had these properties, I really had to pivot my career because I was a loan officer originating mortgage loans, and that crash directly impacted the mortgage industry. So I went into community development, and through that, I was able to work in several cities, in urban communities. And I saw a real problem. These communities were changing and people were being priced out. So I wanted to, find a solution for that. And I came up with Pairgap, which is a platform that connects people to purchase property together. And it got to a point where I had to kind of, believe in myself or believe that this can be a solve. And 2 years ago, I resigned after 23 years. So banking was really, it changed the trajectory of my life. And it really taught me about financial education, which is not even taught in schools. So it was a life changer.
Well, Nikki, I just did the math. So 23 years in banking, you started when you were 20. You look really good.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm in my mid 40s now. I have grown children. So much has happened. But it's been a journey.
I love that. No, and I wanted to talk about, again, in your bio, you said your son, Keith, studying to be a lawyer, but you're kind of grooming him to be the CEO of Urban Leisure. So how's that process going?
Well, my daughter's actually still in college to be an attorney. My son is the one that I'm grooming, and he's doing so well. It's just amazing how much talent I can pull out of this kid. The more I push him, the more he just amazes me with his work ethic, his creativity, and he's really the brains behind the operation.
Oh, I love that. And it's so nice that you're empowering him to do that and that you're leaving that legacy. Again, you bought property so many years ago to build that legacy to pass that on to your kids. So that's amazing.
No, absolutely. And I'm able to transfer the wealth while I'm still alive. I think that's even more amazing.
Yeah,
So
no, that is. And again, I know those are you speak on these topics, wealth building, you own a fintech company now with Pairgap. And so and actually, so is the platform completely live now?
yeah, it's live, up and running, and we are going for our first round of funding right now.
Nice. Oh, and that's one of my questions. Because again, a lot of investors watch and listen to the show. How much are you raising? What kind of investors are you looking for? Is this a seed round, an A?
So this is a pre-seed round. And we have our MVP right now, and we're really looking, because it's a social enterprise, we're looking for some investments or from some philanthropic investments, and then going for the VC uh, pre-seed round.
Awesome. Okay. So if anybody's listening, get in contact with Nikki. When do you expect to hopefully close the round out by?
Well, we're giving ourselves until June.
Okay.
Everything is going good. I'm building my team, I'm building my staff. So I'm really excited about 2021, because 2020 wasn't so good, but 2021 is looking better.
Awesome. And so I know you're kind of, you've already done proof of concept. Like how many people have you paired already for the co-ownership?
So we have 12 people in our beta.
Hmm.
The market is really difficult now because there's like 20 people to one house in New York City. So it's really saturated. But we're moving them along the process. We're coaching them through every stage and really trying to just comb through what those barriers are, those difficult parts of a home buying transaction, so that we can perfect the platform as we build.
Cool. And I know we had Key Living on a while back, and he's kind of building out a similar platform
Mhm.
with co-housing. I love this idea, by the way. And I keep saying it's the future, right? Especially with millennials, they don't want to drop all this money on, on one mortgage. But if they can contribute a piece to it, especially for investment, that's huge. So what's like minimum investment typically?
So one thing I just want to touch on, with millennials and just people in general, I think there has to be more education so that they'll be more willing to go into a long-term commitment like this. And the education that we have now on a national level is home buyer education, but it doesn't have a wealth building component. So what I'm building within Urban Leisure and Pairgap is really teaching people how to treat home ownership as an asset. The traditional way, is not considered an investment, but that's why we have to kind of rethink how we look at home ownership, and really get the education you need to see how you can utilize it to build wealth. So right now, the minimum down payment for a mortgage loan is 3%, 3.5% if it's FHA. So I always, really encourage people, if you're looking at it from a wealth building component, to join together. Each of them put a portion of that down payment. So if it's 20%, it makes it easier if it's 4 people, but the minimum right now is 3%.
Oh, awesome. And then what type of monthly payment? I know it depends on the property, but what's kind of average?
Well, if you're talking about New York City,
Yeah.
it really, really depends. It's really hard to say what the average is. But if you think about, the average mortgage in New York City, or the average home going for about 800,000, and if that mortgage is around $4,000, then split 4 ways, it can be, $1,000 a month. So it really depends. Some choose to not live at the property, and rent out and create some cash flow. And some choose to live there, and utilize other space. So if it's a multifamily, they may live in one home and then rent out the other. So the whole goal is really to run it like a business, create that cash flow, and then eventually, whatever that exit strategy is going to be, you'll be able to leverage the property to get to the next level, or to get to the next stage, of your life, right?
That's
Um,
amazing. And do you provide those educational resources when you say treat it like a business,
Mhm.
Do you guys kind of hold hold their hand throughout the process to teach them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that is the education that they're going to get and the coaching that they're going to get at Urban Leisure when they're in the homes. But even on the platform, we help you, we educate you, we match you to partners to purchase with, we match you to partners of the transaction, and we hold your hand from start to finish. And then even when you close, we help you sustain home ownership. And that is by helping you to see ways that you can create cash flow and go into our investor portal. So we really want to graduate you from first time home buyer to investor. And then there's different types of investments that you can make. But more importantly, the technology part of it and where I see it going is giving more people access to purchase real estate by giving them more financing options. Right now, we have a lot of things that are baked in our system that don't allow a certain subset of people to purchase. So we really want to open that up. And, there's so much technology coming out the pipe. There's peer-to-peer, there's crowdfunding, there's seller finance. So there's so many different ways that people are going to be able to enter this real estate space. And I'm really excited for what's to come.
I know, I could tell. I love your energy. I know you're excited. That's amazing. I love it. So let me ask you this: with Pairgap, is it all funneling into Urban Leisure, or can they do their own different brands?
Well, really, it's Urban Leisure funneling into Pairgap. So with Urban Leisure, we have two tracks. We have an entrepreneur track, and then we have a ownership track. So we're bringing people from renting to owning. So it really depends what track they're on. But the goal is once you're in the track that gets you into ownership, when you're finished, when you're complete your strategy, because we create these strategies, and we time it. We say, okay, it's going to take 6 months to get you here. Once we get you there, then we match you with compatible partners to purchase with. So the funnel is coming from Urban Leisure to Pairgap.
And then do you guys find the homes first for them and then kind of go through the funnel?
Well, on the platform, they're going to have access to all the properties on the market.
Oh.
So they'll be able to choose, their own property. But eventually, the goal is, again, when we talk about affordable housing, co-ownership is a way of affordable housing because any level of income can have ownership. So you can have someone that makes 20,000 match with somebody that makes 40,000, 60,000, and together they can qualify for the property. And, with a $20,000, income, it's almost impossible to own, right? But this gives them the opportunity to own, and then they'll be able to, own as partners. So that is the goal.
Cool. And then I know I saw somewhere, I think on your website, was entrepreneurial, home ownership. Again,
Mhm.
is that putting them through the business side of things and teaching them, or are they already entrepreneurs or real estate investors?
Well, when I say that, it's really my path. So I was able to utilize real estate to become an entrepreneur by leveraging my real estate. So when people, especially young people, the goal is most times to become an entrepreneur. And I'm teaching a new way that you can use home ownership to lead you in that direction and utilizing it as an asset that will get you there faster because you're satisfying, your housing need and also you're building wealth at the same time that you can leverage later on.
That's awesome. I love that. And then the maybe a little more. So with the co-ownership on a house, did you say you have like 20 people to one home? Is there like a limit? I know you said four, maybe, I know we're playing with different numbers. Is there a limit?
Typically, there's four. There's four to a mortgage. It depends on the program. There's no limit to how many people you can have on a deed,
Mhm.
but typically it's four. We haven't done more than four people, but when you start getting couples involved, it may be more. So we haven't had anyone over four yet.
And are they buying like you said earlier, like a fourplex or duplex, and they're living in part of it? Like, what are some common, housing types?
Mhm. Multifamily, so anywhere from 2 to 4 families. So it still falls under the residential lending rules. So we haven't gone into commercial, But as long as it's 4 family and it fits under that residential, there's less restrictions. So 4 is kind of like the lucky number, 4 family properties.
Cool. And then what are the ages? What's the demographic? Are most of them first-time home buyers?
Most of them are first-time home buyers. The age is 28, and the oldest person is around 39. So we have some younger millennials, we have some older millennials. But I have a couple of different partnerships. So we have one that's a family, we have some that's friends, and then we have some couples.
Oh, cool. And then it
Yeah.
sounds like you're already paired up with some mortgage brokers, any realtors. Like, what's kind of those partnerships you've already built?
So the partnerships are all the partners in the home buying transaction. You have the real estate agents and brokers. You have the lenders, which is huge. There's a big pool of lenders. We also have attorneys because the first thing people ask when you talk about co-ownership is how do you protect yourself? And we provide access to attorneys that help you put together those co-housing agreements, those real estate prenups, and that talks about all the what ifs. What if the boiler breaks? Who's responsible, right? What if I want out in 3 years? How does that look? So we match you with attorneys, we match you with inspectors, we match you with insurance companies, and then even after you close, we match you with different resources and tools that'll help you keep your home, because a lot of people think that the hardest part is getting the loan to get the home. The work begins when you actually own it, and the hardest part is keeping it, sustaining it.
That makes perfect sense. And I've owned a few homes in my lifetime. I think that's why I've been renting and co-living for so long now. So much easier. Yeah, those are interesting points. Like, out of curiosity, what happened? Like, who is responsible, for if something breaks? Do they just split it up?
Yeah, they do split it up. It's everybody's responsibility. And what works the best is when once they close on a loan, they put the property in an LLC,
Mm.
and then they become business partners. And there's already protections in place for partners in business,
Mhm.
and the co-housing agreement becomes the operating agreement.
You've thought of everything. That's great. You're right. Then it's legit a business.
It's a
So if somebody
business.
wants to leave early, that's in the business agreement under the LLC guidelines. And okay, cool.
Absolutely. Like I said, this is all the stuff that I've been able to learn and do, and I've struggled and really just had to figure out a way to survive. So my survival skills turned into a business.
There you go. You become resilient, right? That's what I like to say.
You do, definitely.
And then, Nikki, what's your favorite part of just kind of running this whole thing out? Again, it's very innovative. I love, love, love seeing the future of home, co-owning homes.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part?
My favorite part about urban leisure is that I can take something that I own and I can do what I want with it. Of course, there are rules, right? But I can do what I want with it. I can invite people in my home and give them the tools that they need to be successful as they navigate this journey called life. So I love that because it allows me to find my tribe, you know? So I feel like I'm creating the tribe so that I can attract the people that I want to be around. So I'm so selfish. This is all about me.
No, you're educating people, first-time home buyers. Like, that's a dream, that's the American dream, right? Is to buy a home.
It is. But I mean, it's exciting to be able to work in this industry for so many years, and see on the ground all the issues and be able to solve that problem. And that's what I want to do. I want to have, a greater impact in the work that I do. And, post COVID, I think that it's a good time to do it because it's a level playing field. And if you're a creative person or you're a problem solver, which I am very much a problem solver, I feel like this is a playground for problem solvers because there's going to be so many problems to solve. And the beauty of it now is that if I solve this problem, it can become the norm going forward. That's huge, So I'm excited about the impact that I'm going to have in the industry.
And then the broker. So clue me in, because I heard some, I don't know how true this is. What is New York doing with the broker situation again? Remember, if you were going to rent, you had to use a broker and had to pay some crazy fee. What's going on with that right now?
Well, there's been a lot of different changes around that. And, there's fees. What I'm seeing a lot, and another reason why I switched is because the cost used to be on the tenant. And now they're, putting the cost on the landlord. So the industry is definitely shifting, and I'm sure it's going to shift a lot more as we go into this new world and as these policies change. But it's getting tougher and tougher, and everything is technology now. So it'll probably be less, face-to-face interaction and more virtual.
No, and
I don't know.
yeah.
That's what it's looking like, though.
No, I'm excited to see that. So then they just kind of get faded out, the brokers and all that. Oh, is it
What
like
a
a
role
one?
change.
Yeah. Oh, the
It
role
may
change.
Right. They may, right now people are selling service, So the real estate agents, they're still going to be people that want that personalized service. So they may not go away. The role just may change.
And so like if I was a tenant going into New York City wanting to rent like a $3,000 a month apartment, what do you pay the brokers at 1 month? It was some
It's 1 month.
crazy. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Just a
It's one
fee
month.
for them to
Just
find the apartment.
yes, yes. So now they're keeping a month. So the tenant usually will pay 1 month rent and 1 month security, and the broker keeps the. But there were some brokers and some brokerage companies that were paying 1 month rent, 1 month security, and 1 month broker fee, which would be equal to a month. So yeah, this, they're doing it in several different ways, but it's a lot of money. If you think about that, that's $6,000. That can go toward a purchase. And while the purchase may be, the mortgage may be a little higher, what people don't realize is that when you buy, you're stabilizing your housing costs because rent goes up every year, but your principal and interest stays the same for the life of the loan if you have a fixed interest rate. So, if you're going to put all of that money out, you might as well put it out on something you own. On top of that, stop paying your landlord's mortgage. You're helping your landlord build wealth. Help yourself. So, I mean, I just think that the industry is definitely changing, and the roles are going to change, and they're going to look different in the future.
For sure. And so you kind of answered my question I always ask everybody is, where do you see this industry in 10 years? And you're exactly right. You nailed it. Like this is definitely times are changing for sure, especially with technology coming in. So my last question now for you is, we talked about the fundraising you guys are doing, so that's exciting. How about team members? Just, is there anybody who's listening that, might be looking for a job in real estate, in technology, are there any positions coming up that you need to fill?
So what I found is, when I quit my job, I didn't have social media so now you have to when you have a business. And there were so once I got on social media, there were a lot of people reaching out to me that wanted to get into real estate, that wanted, mentorship. So now I created like a mentorship program where, as we scale the business and we start making more money and we can actually pay a full staff, what we're given is knowledge, and helping people who work for the company navigate through their goal of home buying and real estate and really learning the business inside. So we're doing that with a lot of interns now and people who are interested in mentorship. But of course, I'm always looking for people, and I'm sure you always have to, continue to grow your staff, and as you develop them and as you grow. So we're always looking for people.
Good deal. Well, Nikki, it's always been awesome following your journey and chatting with you and keeping up with all the fun stuff you're doing. Like, we always have amazing conversations. So I'm so glad we brought you on this time.
No, me too. And thank you for bringing me on. I love to talk about, what's happening. And I love to come back and talk about, how it's been going and how we've grown. By the time I come back, we'll be national. Oh no, we'll be global.
There we go.
So thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for checking out this episode. And keep in mind, we are on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iTunes. And also, if you are a co-living community, you can reach out to us to be listed on the Kindred platform. That's KNDRD.io. It's a great way to showcase pictures, videos, virtual tours of your community. Also, we have a link in the show notes for our 3 books on co-living. You can also find one of them on Amazon.com if you'd like the print version. And lastly, a very quick shout out to our partners over at ISL Furnishings. They bring light to your vision and already work with some of the larger companies like Star City and Quarters.